All right, the CEO of the Sterling One Foundation, Olapeju Ibekwe, joins us now to discuss further. Good morning and congratulations on a great summit. Thank you for joining us. So, what do you make? I mean, as far as food security is concerned, along with a whole number of other topics to discuss, but what do you make of the what needs to be done there?
I actually think we have a food insecurity opportunity for a lot of entrepreneurs across Nigeria and across Africa. Whenever there's a problem, there's money to be made.
Yep.
Good. So this is an excellent example of making profit with impact. So I think we're open at the Sterling One Foundation to provide support to any innovation that will be able to address this challenge of rotten food products on our streets in the rural communities that should actually be producing funding and to be scaling businesses and helping the livelihood of farmers in the rural areas across the country, and of course addressing the challenge of food insecurity in Nigeria and across the continent.
Matthias Shmali, can you talk about the collaboration between Sterling One and the United Nations?
I think it's fantastic. Mr. Matthias Shmali agreed to co-convene the Africa Social Impact Summit, the second edition that held just last week with us, and it was an excellent collaboration because the thrust of the Social Impact Summit is about the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. We're actually just 7 years away and the numbers are worsening, if you would ask me. So there is a need for us to accelerate the work already being done. No doubt there's a lot of fantastic work that has been done by various organizations across the private sector, the public sector, and the third sector. But one thing is clear, we cannot achieve the SDG goals if we continue by that memo. We need to get a new memo and we need to carve new strategies, craft new strategies to be able to achieve these goals. And we cannot do it in silos. We have to come together to do it. Hence the partnership with the United Nations for the Africa Social Impact Summit. And we had so many fantastic partners join us. Over 20 partners took the lead and took the charge forward and put their hands on the plow that we're going to do this together. I was humbled and particularly very, very impressed by all those that walks the talk when it comes to partnerships for the SDGs.
Speaking of which, how important is the private sector in those partnerships?
Extremely, extremely important. The private sector writes the very huge checks. Right, and there is always a purpose backing it out. I just spoke about profit and impact. The private, and that's one thing, you do not just have to make profit without impact. And that's one thing that I think the MD of Sterling Bank emphasized during the summit. You have to always be intentional about infusing impact in your business strategy. That way you do not have to do tokenism after making your profit. It's actually part of the way you do business and the part of the way you address the needs and the issues within your community, because business is about solving problems. So the way you're solving those problems, it will be very, very beneficial if you can infuse impact into it. I think that's an excellent strategy for the private sector to also take the lead in addressing the different issues across the vital sectors: education,
water resources,
gender, health, equality, gender, food insecurity, of course, which is really, really an issue on the global stage. And we already have
a state of emergency
in Nigeria today, already done by the president. And yes, it is going to be excellent if this can be infused in the business strategy of the private sector.
If for anyone who watches these summits and says, okay, fantastic, you had the Deputy Governor of Lagos State, Obafemi Hands out there, United Nations, all the big corporations.
The former president of Malawi, Joyce Banda.
How do you turn all this from these, as the CEO of Sterling Bank there, how do you turn this to action? How do you turn the summits, all the speeches and everything to action?
So I will start with the learnings from last year. So this is the second edition of the summit. The first edition was in 2022, and that held at the Transcorp Hilton. Between then and now, personally, I know about 7 different partnerships that have birthed and already have impact numbers. It's a platform for these partnerships to grow. If you go on social media, there are a lot of posts on different people's pages that attended the summit, and they're already talking about partnerships they have started birthing from the summit. It's not about Sterling One Foundation. It's a platform for everyone to scale the work they're already doing towards transforming their various communities. And this is what we're talking about. At the Sterling One Foundation, of course, we're going to identify 4 to 5 outcomes from the communique of the summit that we will lead on. And I think I already spoke to one now, the fact that we're ready to support any innovation that will take care of food insecurity when it comes to produce that are rotten in the rural communities, access to markets, and to ensure that that problem is solved sustainably.
With all, I mean, look, there's oil marketers are saying fuel could go to $7.20 in a matter of days or weeks. You've seen where the naira is to the dollar. The domestic headwinds Nigeria is facing here, are those hurdles to what you're trying to do?
Of course there are hurdles. Of course there are hurdles. But like I said, these things are about perspective. You cannot say because there's a problem or because there's a challenge, you sit down and give up. No, there's always a solution to every problem. Once you have the right heads in the room, you can craft a solution to be able to solve that problem. And I think, yes, I would rather not look at them as hurdles. I'll look at them as opportunities.
I see. I figured you were going to say that. Okay, a minute to go. Is it too early to ask you about 2024? What should we expect, or should we still be digesting, wait for the communique?
So we had a deal room at the summit, and we had about $40 million asked from different entrepreneurs. We had 17 entrepreneurs from 3 countries, Uganda, Kenya, and Nigeria. We are definitely going to be looking out for impact stories.
Okay.
Well, for 2024.
We will look forward to that.
Of the funds that have changed hands and the work has been done, yes.
CEO of the Sterling One Foundation, Olapeju Ibekwe, thank you so much for joining us, and congrats on a great summit. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Reuters.